What is going on, guys? I'm Brandon, and today I'm going to give you my 6-month review of my 2006 Jeep Commander. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. What is going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. Thanks so much for stopping by the garage today. Today we're not actually going to be wrenching on anything, but we are going to be reviewing my 2006 Jeep Commander. I've owned this thing for 6 months, so you guys know I bought it used back in August and actually didn't really get it on the road until September. I have done some updates to it that I haven't filmed, so we're going to go around. We're going to talk about, number one, is this thing really reliable? What issues have I run into? Number two, is it cool? And number three, what are the future plans? Where are we going with this thing? Is it for sale? So let's go ahead and get right to it. So for anyone who's new to the channel, back in August, I used to have a 2006 Scion XB that was heavily modified, really cool car, and I actually put it up for sale and decided to replace it with this, which is vastly different than a small Japanese, really kind of economical, fun to drive little little four-door. But I wanted something that was larger, something that was a little bit more powerful, and something that I thought was cool and hopefully not too unreliable. So this is what I picked up. I got this thing in Virginia for $6,000, which I think is a really good deal. This is a 2006 Jeep Commander. It is the limited. It's got basically every feature you can imagine, as well as it comes with a 4.7 V8. So as I said, I bought this in Virginia. I got on a one-way flight, flew out there, picked it up in Roanoke. Previous owner was great, gave me all sorts of details over the phone, lots of photos. Basically everything you could ever ask for when buying a used car. So I wasn't really worried about flying out there and picking it up and driving it home. When I did get the car, it was kind of funny. He said to me, "So you're gonna drive this all the way back to Orlando, Florida?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Oh, wow." And I'm like, "Wow, you don't think it's gonna make it?" He's like, "Well, I've never driven this car that far." And I said, "What's the furthest you've ever driven this car?" And he said, to his son-in-law's house or something like that, was like 100 miles away. So they wound him having this car for something like 5 years, and they never drove it more than 100 miles. So I was a little bit worried when he said that. And then also too, when we basically exchanged paperwork and gave me the keys, he told me that there's something going on with the front end. It's making a noise. He's like, "Oh, you'll see when you drive it for a long distance." So yeah, 700 miles later, I'm basically back here in Orlando, and this passenger side wheel bearing is just roaring super loud by the time I get home, to the point where I was kind of a little worried about driving it anymore. So that's one of the first things I did. I had the car for like not even 24 hours. I already found something I had to replace on it. But you know, wheel bearings go out on all cars. They're a wear item. This car is 100, when I purchased it, 184,000 miles on it. So if it's an OEM wheel bearing, it's not uncommon that it would wear out. But you guys know me, I didn't just stop at a wheel bearing. I went ahead and kind of replaced everything that's associated with the front end of this vehicle. I replaced the calipers, the front calipers, I replaced the discs, I replaced the lower control arms, obviously the brake pads, I replaced obviously the rotor, and anything else I could basically get my hand on this passenger side. And it was really a pain in the butt, and let me show you why. All right, guys, so you know me, I'm always messing around with Japanese cars. I got my Miata over here that's still under construction, but I got my 91 Prelude over here. And as I said earlier, I had a Scion XB. All three of these cars are really easy to work on. So here comes the Jeep Commander with this roaring wheel bearing that I'm gonna go ahead and attempt to replace. So let me show you what I'm used to. So right here is a typical bolt that you might find on a Japanese car. I think it's 17 millimeter. Pretty heavy duty. It's a grade 9, as you can see there. This would hold together a lower control arm or a number of other kind of major components to a Japanese vehicle. Now, this is what holds together the lower control arm on the old Jeep Commander, dude. I mean, check out the size of this thing compared to what you might find on a Japanese vehicle. Now, also look at the kind of difference in metals. This is obviously, they're both steel bolts. This is coated with something, and I'm not sure what kind of coating is on there. Maybe someone down in the comments can tell me. But from what I've seen so far, these bolts here are prone to rust. Yeah, they really are. I've never really had an issue with a Japanese car with these kind of bolts rusting, but these guys, for whatever reason, do. But yeah, this thing was rusted to the lower control arm. There was no way I could remove it, not without bringing it to a friend of mine who is a mechanic and has giant air tools. And together, after about half an hour, we were able to remove this bolt and move on with replacing the wheel bearing and lower control arm. And so yeah, wrenching on the old Jeep Commander, my first time was a real learning experience, understanding that there are actually going to be parts of this thing that I physically probably cannot remove, and I will be needing assistance from a mechanic or a friend or someone who's got a serious toolbox. So yeah, that was the first kind of week with the Jeep Commander. All in all, it cost me probably about $600 in parts, because like I said, I did replace a ton of stuff on there. So once I took care of that wheel bearing, it was time to move on to suspension and wheels and tires. Now this came with a stock suspension and it came with stock wheels and tires, and I decided to go ahead and make a change. As you guys know, I always do, and I went ahead with a 3-inch lift, I think it technically is, and I did it in a kind of a weird way, because at the time there were a lot of parts not available for this car. So to get this thing up in the air, I went ahead and used H&R raising springs. It turned out really good. I really like the ride. It does a great job lifting the vehicle as well. No spacers or anything like that. And then for the front, I used Coney struts, and in the rear, I used Bilstein struts. And so far, the ride's been fantastic. I mixed and matched, like I said, because I couldn't find Bilsteins for the front, and I didn't want to spend the extra money for the Coneys in the back. So anyway, the decision turned out really good as far as I'm concerned. I also replaced tie rods while we were at it, got it aligned, and the thing drives amazingly. It drives like it's a brand new vehicle. So for wheels, I wanted something I didn't have to use a spacer for. I didn't want wheel spacers, so I went ahead and got these Moab wheels from Weathertech. They are 17 by 8.5, and I went ahead with 265/70/17 Toyo Open Country ATs. So to finish up the exterior mods that I've done to this date, I went ahead and installed a CB. You see my 4-foot antenna here. The roof rack, I did a video on that. I went ahead and attached some KC LED spotlights up top, and I did some ditch lights here made by Cool Light. Really cool, great add-ons. I will be doing a video on light installation. I have more lights to install, so if you guys are interested in the light aspect of things, look forward to that. It's coming at some point. All right, now let's get under the hood. And before we do, yes, this is custom. I did this. I used to say Jeep. Went ahead, got some letters off Amazon and spelled out Commander on there, because this isn't a Jeep, it's a Commander. All right, so here she is, the 4.7. This is the engine I wanted for this car. Did not want the Hemi, and I did not want the V6. V6 is totally underpowered for something that weighs 4,500 pounds, and the Hemi is, as far as I'm concerned, a complete pile of crap. And they're typically massively misused by the previous owners. So they have all sorts of issues. You guys can do some research on that. But to me, the 4.7 is the way to go with these cars. It is extremely slow, in my opinion. It's 245 horsepower. It's 300 foot-pounds of torque. You really have to step on it to make this thing move. But it is super smooth. I mean, incredibly smooth and really quiet. One of the first things I did under the engine bay here was actually install this AFE intake tube. Previous owner had some jacked up, crappy attempt at a custom intake. Super happy with this. It's a little on the expensive side, but it sounds awesome, looks really cool, and I think it adds a little bit for sure. So after installing the intake, the next thing I did was actually something that I never do, and I paid somebody to replace the valve cover seals on this vehicle. That's right. I'm typically a DIY guy. You guys know I do everything myself, but when it comes to this engine bay here and trying to figure out exactly how you replace the valve cover gaskets, man, it's a real pain in the butt. So I wound up paying somebody who's a lot more experienced than I am. You can see here, here's one of the valve cover gaskets on the driver's side. Not so hard to get to. Apparently you do need some sort of Ford tool to replace or to remove the fuel rail. I don't have that tool. I had a really hard time even identifying that tool. So again, another reason why I paid somebody. And then over here on the passenger side, getting to the valve cover is even more difficult. Not only do we have the intake in the way, but apparently you have to disconnect the air conditioning. Again, something I couldn't recharge on my own, as well as there's just a number of other obstacles in the way here. And I said, you know what, for a couple $100, I will gladly pay someone to handle this and not lose an entire day like I would trying to replace some silly valve cover gaskets. So that's really it for under the hood. There was just a lot of kind of routine maintenance. The leaky valve cover gaskets had to be addressed, but other than that, everything was routine. Now moving into the interior of the car. I went ahead and installed Weathertech floor mats, front and rear, and also all the way in the trunk. These things are fantastic. They fit really well. They're expensive, but they fit really well. This thing still has not been repaired or replaced by me. Now you could buy these on eBay, brand new, for 50 bucks. It's just a piece of plastic. But the way they're designed is really, really bad. There are two posts, as you can see there. That one's cracked. And what happens is when you get in the vehicle, you get on the edge of the cushion like this, and as a result it pushes down on top of this piece of plastic and it winds up breaking loose like that. So I'm going to replace it. I've been kind of real lazy about it. Like I said, when I bought the car it had this issue, but for whatever reason I'm gonna get to it sooner or later. But yeah, still an issue. The really interesting kind of weather seal disintegrating here going on. It's only on the driver's side. It's really odd the way it's kind of, here's the other piece here. I don't understand how this happened, but again, it's something I need to address. As I'm looking here, I see I gotta fix that seal there. These are the Jeep Commanders are all over the junkyard, so I just gotta grab one from a junkyard one of these days that's in better shape than this one, and that'll be that. If you guys remember when I picked this car up, this door handle was like completely broken off. I went ahead and replaced it. You can get a set of 2 off Amazon for like $25, and they're really good replacement pieces. They're actually better than the OEM ones. Again, it's a really bad design by Jeep. I actually think the door handle is mounted too low in the door as well. When you're actually in the vehicle, the door handle is incredibly low. It'd be better if it were up here or something like that, so it'd be a little easier to get through than down here so low towards the bottom of the seat. Now in here, I really haven't done much other than replace the car stereo. I did a video on that, as you guys know. Huge upgrade. The speakers in this car are amazing. They're factory and they are tremendous. I had a blown out speaker. I went to the junkyard, got one for 20 bucks out of another Jeep Commander, and boom, problem solved. I did this slick little cell phone mount down here. It's magnetic. I got my my cord running from here to the stereo, so I can do Android Auto, which is just game changer. Really cool stereo. CB installed down there. Love that. Everything's good up here. Giant sunroof, no leaks. I know a lot of people have problems with their sunroof leaking. I don't have any. I'm noticing that there's a little tear developing here in the seat. Something I'll have to address at some point. For the most part, seats are in really good condition. The driver's one. The driver's side is the one that really takes the most abuse. For whatever reason, these cars have the dirtiest seat belts like I've ever seen. This is like a thing with these cars. They just get the grossest, nastiest looking seat belts. I don't know why. I haven't tried to clean this yet, but yeah, it's pretty nasty. I just try not to look at it. But yeah, for whatever reason, man, if anyone knows down in the comments, let me know why in the world the seat belts get so dirty in this car. So around back here, I got my Cobra Commander sticker. One of the things I love about it is this rear glass door. There's a button underneath here. If you click it, it pops open and you have access to the rear hatch. And back here I have this kind of little tote here I got off Amazon. It's got a cooler side, and then it has 2 storage compartments over here. Super nice for groceries. Just keeping, you know, just stuff back here that you may have to gain access to on a regular basis. But yeah, the area back here is huge. The third row is obviously folded down here. Still lots of room between the second row and the trunk space. All right, so final thoughts, Jeep Commander. Is this car reliable? I will say I got a good one. I haven't come across anything that would make me think this car so far is a lemon or a bad vehicle, or I'm regretting it and I'm selling it. I've been pleasantly surprised with the quality of the vehicle, quite honestly. Is it the nicest car I've ever driven? No. No, it's not. But it is very quiet, it's solid, it doesn't rattle. It's been good for me. So far so good. Now, with that being said, I've only put in 6 months 3,000 miles on this car. I fill it up once a month. The gas mileage is pretty terrible. It's basically 15 city, 17 highway, and that's with using JScan, which is an app that you can use to make sure your speedometer is correct, because I got oversized wheels and tires on the vehicle, obviously, so that affects your miles per gallon. But But yeah, so yeah, it's not good on gas. I knew it wasn't when I purchased it. I didn't buy it for it to be good on gas. It's a shame gas prices are as high as they are because it's expensive to fill up. But like I said, I only fill it up once a month. I drive it every day. I just don't drive far. I work from home, so you know, if this was something I was commuting back and forth with 20 miles each direction, I probably would find a different vehicle just because of the cost of price, or just because of the cost of gas. So so yeah, that's the gas mileage. I said earlier in the video, this car is slow. It's basically a gearing issue and a weight issue. The vehicle's so heavy, you know, the engine can only do so much. But there are ways around that too. You can basically get your ECU reflashed with a Super Chips controller or a Voodoo box or whatever it's called. I mean, there are ways to fix the gearing. Yeah, like I said, for the most part, I think it's reliable. Is this vehicle easy to work on? No, it's not. It's very difficult to work on. You would think a big engine bay, big vehicle, you'd have lots of room to get to stuff. In my experience, running lines for lighting, taking interior parts apart, stuff like that, it's a challenge compared to a Japanese vehicle. Is this car fun to drive? No. This car is not fun to drive at all. It does not make you want to get after it. It doesn't make you want to jump in and you know, get on your favorite twisty road. It doesn't do any of that stuff. Is this car comfortable to drive? Absolutely. One of the most comfortable cars I've ever driven. So it's very, very comfortable to drive. But yeah, this doesn't bring out the inner hooligan in you, that's for sure. It doesn't really do anything well. It doesn't accelerate well, it doesn't brake well, it doesn't go around a corner well. If I were to drive this like I drive the Prelude or the Miata, I would wind up in the woods, probably upside down with the Jeep on fire. so yeah, not exactly the most fun thing to drive. Does this car get a lot of looks? Absolutely not. No one looks at this car. That could be a good thing in some ways because cops aren't looking at you either. But even with the kind of ridiculous off-road lighting that I have on the vehicle, no one pays any mind to this thing. It's kind of the look I'm going for. I'm not trying to be this obnoxious off-road thing. I'm trying to be more of, like I said, a OEM look. Not black everything out like everybody does these days. I'm keeping the chrome trim, that kind of stuff. Yeah, just kind of trying to keep it classy out here, you know? So anyway, that really kind of wraps it up. You guys have any questions down in the comments field, please, I want to hear them. I want to hear from you if you have one of these or if you've had one. The very first Jeep Commander video that I did when I initially purchased it did really well. It got a lot of views, it got a lot of really good comments on there. Almost all of them from Jeep owners were positive. All XB owners hated it and basically told me that I'll be regretting it. I have not regretted it. This has been a great replacement vehicle for the XB. It's a very different vehicle than the XB, but it's been fantastic. So anyway, lots still more coming with the Jeep. I am going to do more videos on it. Exhaust video coming up, ordered an awning that's going to be going on. We're going to be taking it to the beach. I'm going to be showing you that. And we're going to be taking it off-road. But before we do that, it's got to be ready to go off-road. We're not just going to take it off-road and try to break it, right? It'll break on its own. We don't need to try to break it. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.